Sorry, some traffic. Okay, so here's a talk about something I was thinking about lately, and hopefully this makes sense. I'll try and state it reasonably short, but and I don't know, maybe this applies to me, maybe this applies to the world around us, but particularly in cryptocurrency, I noticed like where people make things very, very complicated, there's a simplicity that they haven't grasped. For example, let's talk about substitutions for production, okay? Substitutions for producing, substitutions for exchanging an actual product to another. For example, anytime you have something that promises gains to just create something out of nothing without some customer or recipient of the goods and services, you're going to be in for a letdown, and there won't be enough of the initial starting amount of product. There won't be a greater amount of that product over time, and it won't be sustainable. And in order to have something sustainable, it actually has to be able to grow and to continue and multiply over time, okay? So, for example, I've noticed like the markets are down today and all that kind of stuff, and all of it shouldn't really matter to you if the markets go down. You should be literally just beating your same drum, same pattern. You shouldn't be reacting to what's happening somewhere else, okay? If you are, you have put your money or your energy into something that you don't understand, okay? And you have a substitute for understanding, okay? For example, maybe there's like some person that also likes crypto, and you've decided that person, you like him and you're going to do what he says too. But that's just a substitute for your own understanding, okay? And but hand in hand with a substitute for understanding goes, when a person fails to understand something, in the society, he cannot actually think and create properly. So what he has to do is look around and see what others are doing and try to mimic others, because he doesn't actually know what's really going on. So a substitute for understanding is a very dangerous situation, but also in economics, a substitute for production is deadly and results in death and destruction for everybody over time. Just look at the American dollar, look at the fiat system. Those who are in control of the money and printing it, they're taking out of the society, they're creating something for nothing, and they're using those funds that shouldn't be allocated for government use, but they use it for that. And hopefully nobody notices for a while, but then after a while they do, and it all comes back, and there's not enough goods and services going around in the society compared to the amount of money that's available, right? So really, there's, we're surrounded by this thing, is like this get rich quick thing, which is basically how fast can you substitute for survival, or how fast can you substitute for actual production? How fast can you substitute for actual skill? How fast can you substitute for, really producing a product that helps another? And when so many people are spectating, like just standing around and watching, and just trying to sort of take out of the society, whatever they can get for self, And without, that's not how a society thrives, and that's not how a society grows. And for a society to live, it has to keep growing. So if there's too many people taking stuff out and not giving back an actual product in return, you get this sort of, cream taken off the top effect, and eventually you get a huge, that starts to grow, and then you have too many people spectating on the production of others, right? A kings and royalty could do this to their people, or maybe a slave master could do this to his slaves, or maybe a banking monarchy could do this to its people, or all kinds of stuff. But what really we're breeding is this sort of laziness, where it's like people aren't really, they're looking for a substitute for hard work, and a substitute for, they're looking to find some quick way of getting around actually having to understand, and actually having to participate, and actually, have something that another really does find valuable, and that they only pay you for because it enhances their lives, it enhances their survival. And this is something like that I think about a lot, and especially when you start to try to teach people things and you try to show people things. But really, a lot of people, you can teach them a trade or a skill, and you can actually produce a dramatic change in the way they think, because all their life they had been told what they should do and what they shouldn't do, and by authorities who are substitutes for their own personal understanding, their own personal application of information, and whatever they learned in school and stuff. But it's very interesting to take a person and give and show him, here's how you do this, and here, when you do this, I'll pay you, and you make them do it. And you don't pay them by the hour, you pay them by the product. And all of a sudden you can produce a dramatic effect on the person, because they actually feel for the first time that they can do something for another. And I'm actually betting that there are people who get into their teens and get into their even 30s, 40s, 50s who have never, all they've done is taken authority of another and substituted it for their own opinion, for their own personal understanding. And in my opinion, I believe that the BTC chain is full of people who are trying to substitute for actual production, okay? And it will result in disaster. And then I believe also, like in the BCH chain, for example, I believe it's full of people who are trying to produce better products and get them out into the world. So that's where I see is real viability. And I feel like without that, there is no possibility for growth that's sustainable, okay? And sustainable means it'll keep going into the future. So don't substitute your own personal understanding. Don't just believe what people you like say. You have to look, and you have to apply, and you have to ask questions. And when you really understand something, you can produce something that you can give to another and they approve of it. Then you can say you really understand something. Okay? Okay. If you have any thoughts, let me know.